Hello class, this is Professor Morrison, and here is your presentation regarding evaluating sources. Okay, so now you've gathered many sources that you may or may not choose to use in your essay, and it's time to evaluate them. And we put the emphasis on time because reading and filtering through and evaluating these sources can take up to 50% of the time in your schedule for the entire research project. So we really want to make sure we're not getting burned out. We want to schedule in time, even if it's 5 and 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, so that you are looking at your sources, wondering if they're going to fit with what you're trying to say in your thesis, and deciding whether or not you need more. We don't want to get burned out again, so set a schedule and do that now. Now that you have your schedule set so that you don't get burned out over going through all of these sources, it's time to look at our sources and evaluate them carefully. And one of the tools that we use to do this is called the CRAP test. And it's CRAAP, and this stands for Currency, Relevance, Authority, Accuracy, and Purpose. The first letter in the CRAP test is C, which stands for currency. For each source, ask yourself these questions. When was the information published or last updated? Have newer articles been published on your topic? Are links or references to other sources that were used in your source up to date? Is your topic in an area that changed rapidly, like technology or popular culture? Remember that you really should locate sources that have been published within the previous 5 to 10 years, unless you are taking a historical approach to your assignment, in which case you can go older. Seminal sources are an exception to the currency rule. They tend to be the major studies on the issue that were done over the past 20 to 50 years, or in good old Freud's case here, even longer. These are the researchers and thinkers that everyone discusses whether or not current research agrees with their finders. Some examples would be Freud, Piaget, and Gardner. Next, we look at relevance. Does the information answer your research question, or did it just contain the keywords that you put in? Does the information meet the stated requirements of the assignment? Is the information too technical or too simplified for you to use? Does the source add something new to your knowledge of the topic? We don't want to have articles that all say the same thing, but there should be a consensus. In addition, we don't want to use materials that are made for children or made for rocket scientists. We want everything to be in accessible language for our general audience, which is the mature, educated, reasonable adult that our class is a stand-in for. Next, we need to look at authority. What are the author's credentials? Do they have the authority to discuss this topic? Is the author affiliated with an educational institution or a prominent organization? Can you find information about the author from reference sources or the internet? Do other books or authors cite the author? Our next letter is another A, this time for accuracy. Are there statements you know to be false? Are there errors in spelling, punctuation, or grammar? Was the information reviewed by editors or subject experts before it was published? What citations or references support the author's claim? What do other people have to say about the topic? We do not want to be spreading fake news. Check for accuracy. The last letter in our CRAP test is P for purpose. Is the author's purpose to sell, persuade, entertain, or inform? Is there an obvious bias or prejudice? Are alternative points of view presented? Does the author omit important facts or data that might disprove the claim? Does the author use strong or emotional language? That should be a really big red flag. There are many types of sources that you might encounter in your research. Scholarly journals are always the best. We like them, especially if they're peer-reviewed. We can't always find sources in scholarly journals because our topics might be too new or trending now controversially. The internet is our last resort. Please do not do a Google search. And you don't need to use Google Scholar either, because we have more than that available to you for free, or at least already covered by your tuition in the school's databases at the library. So please go there first and perhaps last. The library should be your one-stop shopping center for sources. However, if you do need to go to the internet for whatever reason, please go to specific websites and search there. Go to Pew Research, go to Gallup, go to allsides.com, go to the New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Post, Mother Jones, places that are credible. But when you're at these places, understand that with the mainstream media comes bias and fallacies, and you want to look out for those and try to avoid them. Do not ever use a blog, a regular dictionary, or regular encyclopedia. Only use the reference materials from the library, typically inside the Gale database. Never use Wikipedia or wiki anything. Steer clear of .com unless it's mainstream media. Don't even look at about.com, ask.com, answers.yahoo.com. Not acceptable. Instead of how stuff works, try Science Daily. Elevate your searches just like you elevate your language. Okay, let's say that you found a source that you think might be worthy of inclusion in your paper, and you found it from the library, which is very good. And now you have a citation, and you want to know more about this source before you start diving into it. So first, make sure you're looking at the most detailed version of the citation or abstract that's available to you. Then dig for specifics. Who is the author? Is there more than one? Can you determine the author's affiliation or credentials? Is the author from a university or research organization? Look at the publication date. When was it published? Is currency important for your topic? How about length? How long is it? 2 to 3 pages is probably not likely to be your best source. Abstract. Is there an abstract? You've hit the jackpot. That's a summary. Go read that to see if this is probably something that you want to include. If not, you can just keep going. If it is, then you can read the whole thing. What about peer review? Is this from a peer-reviewed journal? Is that important to your research for this assignment? Here is a sample citation in 3 parts. This one I received from the Opposing Viewpoints in Context Gale database. The authors are listed here. It's from the Public Library of Science, PLOS 1. It is a report. We don't see a page length, but we see that it's almost 6,000 words. And it actually has a DOI, which we really like when we're doing our MLA formatting, because we can use that instead of a lengthy URL. Here is more information about that same citation. Notice how my keyword was coffee. And every time that coffee is used in this abstract, it is in red. This really helps us to see how it might be appropriate for our thesis. And we see our authors down here again. And what's really nice with opposing viewpoints and many of the others is that you can listen to them. So if you're trying to fit this into your schedule, Sometimes all you have to do is listen to know if this is something you want to pursue further. Here we have the author affiliation. This was located at the very bottom of the article, and so I have it here for you separately. We can see that our authors are affiliated with the university here in Brazil, and that we have an editor from Indiana State University, and we have an email address that is also from the university in Brazil. So notice when you're evaluating your citations, where the authors are affiliated, when it was published. This one was published in July 2019. You want to make sure that if you are asked for peer-reviewed articles, that the journal would be peer-reviewed. Sometimes all it takes is emailing a librarian they already know, or you can look up the publisher's website and it might be on there also. Okay, for the following resources, ask yourself whether or not they should be included in a research essay. The first resource is the CoffeeFAQcom, a site dedicated to coffee obsession. This site does not offer much information regarding its author and was last updated in 2006. This would not be a good source to use in a research essay. However, when we visited the CoffeeFAQ.com, we noticed there was a link to the ICO.org, and we followed it. And this turned out to be the website for the International Coffee Association. And this site offers robust information about the organization with up-to-date statistics and affiliations with notable figures with credible global organizations. So even though that first source was a big no, it led us to this source, which is a big yes. We also might go wandering around mainstream media looking for sources, or our library searches might lead us to mainstream media sources. Here's one from Mother Jones, and the title of the article is The Real Reason Coffee Has Gotten So Fancy. It's by Maddie Oatman, who is a senior editor of Mother Jones. And this article features facts and evidence from credible sources. It looks good to me. This next site is a blog for Stumptown Coffee, our favorite road trip ready brew gear. All we had to do is see the word blog, and we knew there was no way we could possibly use this source. When we did a Google search, which we knew we should not have done, the first website that came up in our search was Wikipedia's page on coffee. No, run for the hills. There is no authority in this page at all. This is an actual book. Its title is The Devil's Cup, Coffee, the Driving Force in History by Stuart Lee Allen from 1999, published by Random House. Now, if you're looking at current events regarding coffee, this is far too old and you should not even consider using it. However, if you are doing a historical approach towards coffee, this is a treasure and you absolutely must use it. This is an article that was located using opposing viewpoints, and it is called The Burden of Respiratory Abnormalities Among Workers at Coffee Roasting and Packaging Facilities. It was first published in the journal Frontiers in Public Health in 2020. This is very much appropriate for a research paper. Do you have any questions? Please let me know. Be sure to evaluate every one of your sources carefully.